So thanks for the Alliance for making all that happen. We've got a great topic here today, but I'll tell you a little bit about our schedule. First, we've got a great presentation with Johnny Lecoq, CEO and founder of Fishpond. And then we'll be having a question and answer session, a couple of little announcements. Send a private message to me if you have an announcement. And then we'll be breaking into very small groups for some informal networking, and then wrapping it up all super punctually by or before 1 o'clock. So thanks so much for being here. Want to introduce Johnny, and we're super delighted to have him here. I think, Johnny, didn't we work on you for about 1.5 years to try to get you to work with our group here? And thanks so much for being here. But Johnny is the CEO and founder of Fishpond. It's a family-owned Colorado company with roots firmly planted in the fishing market. The CEO, Johnny's using their brand strength to help open doors into the sphere of habitat protection. Serves on the board of directors for the Woods Hole Research Center in Massachusetts, which is voted the #1 climate change think tank in the world. He's also a founding member of Beyond the Pond, a 501c3 funding board, and he'll be telling us a little bit more about that. And it's our treat because he's a professional photographer, and we'll get to travel the world with him through this presentation. So help me welcoming Johnny. Welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I really, appreciate so much having the opportunity to present and to talk to all of you today. I think the key word, Kent, is collaboration. And I think hopefully that we get through this slides and to talk about how we're leveraging my brand for conservation purposes, but how everybody else can leverage their own sphere of influence in different ways for different types of issues. We kind of choose habitat, water, public lands, kind of our natural world as our platform. But everybody has a certain side of them that they can use their business, so to speak, to help reach out to customers in new ways and important ways to get them to start to align with those values that you have. So we're all very lucky. I live here on the western slope of Colorado. I live on a ranch, fairly remote, about 40 minutes from the nearest town. I've lived here for about almost 30 years now. I am a native to Colorado. I was born and raised here. It's near and dear to my heart. A lot of the platform for which I work today are the values that I learned growing up here in the outside world. So I'm going to try to be brief here. We only have 25 minutes total. I'm going to leave some time at the end here for some questions from all of you so I can answer those specifically, and we can do that later. But to give you a little bit of kind of a brief background, my career started as a photographer. I've been shooting commercial advertising work for 40 years and have shot all over the world in 72 different countries on assignment. And I guess the basis of that work kind of led me into two different avenues of business. One was a company I started called Case Logic back in the early 80s. I was doing some work for Spider Active Sports, and one of the partners asked me to help them design a cassette tape case, so music storage, which I did. The company became very successful, and I sold that back in the early 90s. And when I sold that company, still working as a photographer, I realized that the visual side and the branding platform learned from my photography could be put to better use than I did with this brand Case Logic, which really didn't have a social purpose or environmental purpose or something beyond the products that we made. They were well designed, they were really nice, but they didn't really, I didn't use that platform to really further conservation or to something that I really cared about. So in 2000, I started a company called Fishpond. And even though I started that company as being very design driven, not really with the ideals of using the brand as leverage, I quickly grew to understand what that meant as far as that leverage, owning a business that you could actually do something with beyond just making money or making great design products, which was very much my focus when I first started it. So Fishpond was born And because we are a water-based company creating products that are mostly fly fishing based, we learned to use the platform to be able to speak at conferences, to work with people like yourselves, to be able to help shift policy, to be able to talk about water, because it is the nature of our business, and the future of our business rests on the ideals of having a healthy planet and healthy habitat for the future. So I'm gonna step through some slides here, just some visuals to kind of give you some background, but think about some questions that I can answer towards the end to help maybe any of you become more aware of how you can leverage your business for the ideals that you love. So I'm going to share my screen here, and take a second here. So my PowerPoint skills are not the best, but I'm going to run through some images here just so you can kind of see. Here we go. Okay, so actually, sorry, I'm going to get back to this. Got to get it. We got to get back to the top here. I'm sorry. Okay. So anyhow, just a little bit of background. This is some of my photography work. I have been shooting on location for companies, mostly service-related companies, giving them kind of for service-related companies, DHL, Federal Express, United Airlines, et cetera, mostly people-related. But the key to that was I just learned from all these really great companies that I worked with how to brand, how to actually project something beyond just the product that you make, what some of these big companies are doing. So in 2000, I started Fishpond, and it was, rather than music storage business, which was Case Logic, I wanted to create a business that had something that really hit my heartbeat. And fly fishing was one of the things I loved in my life. So I started designing products in 2000, and we've taken it up to today with hundreds of different SKUs in our line. And so we're very design focused. We're very much a brand that is critically aligned to the products that we make, which gives us a better platform. But again, talking about how we can actually leverage those great products in our brand to do something bigger is what I've been concentrating on over the last several years. So again, we are inspired by the outside. A lot of our businesses here in Colorado are inspired by the outside. People come here. We're having massive population growth in our state, and it's going to continue to double in the next 20, 25 years. So how do we actually start to protect the habitat and the places that we love for conservation? And whether you're a restaurant or whether you're an auto supply company or whatever you may be, you're talking to certain individuals, and you have a touch point to those individuals to tell something about who you are as a person or a company, rather than just the services that you offer. So, what we do with Fishpond is we talk about the outside world. We talk about like the journey is as important as the destination, et cetera. We talk about the ideals of where we come from, being born and raised in Colorado. This happens to be my ranch here on the right. And I guess it gives us permission to be able to talk about the things that we love because we immerse ourselves in them, and it becomes very much who we are. Again, we're family owned. We are I have a set of partners in Denver, great people, great friends. We're 50-50 partners in the business. And we have a similar mission of creating a company that means something that's much bigger than the products that we make. And I think oftentimes people ask us at Fishpond, what do you do as a company? And I say, well, we make great product, but the values for what we stand for are much greater than the products that we make. And I think that's an important lesson for all of us to think about, what we stand for. I don't know why this is not going forward. There we go. So, again, we care. We care deeply about the outside world and natural resources. And the way that we work best is to work with others. Even this call today is an indication of how, we link together to tell our stories. And I think together as a state, and especially in Colorado, where a lot of people look up to us, we have a responsibility to be the best. And I think metaphorically, people look up to us, and also, spiritually, they look up to us as a state that has 54 14,000-foot peaks, but we're a state that really cares deeply about natural resources. And so collaboration is, again, the key. So Fishpond is a company that, again, how do you actually, address these ideals of what we work for? We do it in many ways, collaborating with people, working with NGOs, internally. All of our fabrics are recycled fabrics. We started many, many years ago to use recycled fishing net as the basis for our products. And we were the only ones, we were actually industry first to do that. So all of our fishing vests, our backpacks, etc. These products are made, or were made originally from recycled fishing net that we were able to pull in from different, trawlers and different shores where the fishing net was being just thrown into the ocean. And we repurposed it, recycled it to make fabrics, which has been really fun. So let's see here, sorry. Okay, so 2 or 3 years ago, we came up with a new program of using recycled carpet, nylon carpet, through a company in Italy for our fabrics. So it's become a way for us to be able to say, hey, we really care, we give a damn, and we're going to actually show you how we do it. And we're going to inspire others to do things, in a similar way by us showing an example of doing this. We are a B Corp. It's a certified benefit corporation, which is, there's 3,500 B Corps around the world in 70 different countries. And to become a B Corp, you really have to show that you are, you care about your environmental world, you care about the social world, you care not only about the outside habitat, but you care about your community and your employees and how you actually interact with people. And it's a certification. You have to, it's not just something that you say you want to be, or that you just, lip service. It's really a certification that proves that you are doing these things, and it's renewable every 3 years. So B Corps are a big part of our life. It's kind of a stamp of approval. I encourage lots of businesses to look at the B Corp process, to become involved, and to become a B Corp, because it really is a tribe of people that care, a tribe of people that really gives a damn, like I say, and together we network, and it's very powerful. You have companies like Ben and Jerry's, Patagonia, and Fishpond, which we are the first in our industry to become a B Corp. So protecting the future of fly fishing is important. Protecting the future of our habitat is important, because if we don't have habitat, we don't have a great business. And right now we're dealing with climate change. We're dealing with a lot of issues, which I'm getting involved in. But we have many different partners. Here in Colorado, we work very strongly with Trout Unlimited. We work with Protect Our Winners, and national organizations such as the National Fish Habitat Partnerships, et cetera. For example, in our catalogs, and we show this in different ways to help NGOs and different businesses, for every hang tag that's on our, hundreds of thousands of products that we sell to consumers, each one of our hang tags has an NGO or a company like Western Rivers Conservancy, the Nature Conservancy, Trout Unlimited. We showcase their process and their ideals. We give that space to them to be able to reach an audience that we have in our platform, which is important. So we use our brand to help others reach their goals. And maybe 3 years ago, and I know my good friend Max Holmes from the Woodwell Climate Research Center is on the call with me right now. I was invited to a climate change CEO conference in Telluride. Patagonia, Ben & Jerry's was there. Big companies. Fishpond was just a little company that was there. But I met a guy named Max Holmes, who was the deputy director of science at the time, the Woods Hole Research Center, which has changed its name recently to the Woodwell Climate Research Center. It's the #1 climate think tank in the world, probably, and is the most respected science-based organization that deals with climate anywhere in the world. But I met Max there, and we became really good friends. He asked me to become a board of directors with the research center, which I am. And through our friendship, we came up with this Science on the Fly, which is for healthy rivers. where we are collecting data across the world and most specifically across the country. Sorry, this is Max here. And we're collecting water data so they can use, we send it back to their science lab so they can actually process this data and to see how there are shifts to water, sediment, pH balance, et cetera, due to climate over a period of time. So we're starting this. This is actually up on the Queeflack River. Max has got an auger there in front of him, which we had flown in on a helicopter on our float. And we were mapping the southern edge of permafrost with this. And even though we're doing that, it's mostly water-based. This is on our river trip. There's 7 rivers in southwest Alaska, which we're mapping. We couldn't do it this last summer. But this river, this is the Queeflack River. It's a 120-mile float from the source to the Quisquam Delta and the Bering Sea. And we have plans now to map all these 7 rivers, put in water data, sensors, et cetera, and to collect those over time. It's a very remote river system. It's very healthy, it's pure, but we're seeing shifts because of climate in this area. This happens to be the Queeflack River from the helicopter that was ferrying us to do this permafrost sampling. This is Max and his son. This is the source of the Queeflack River. This is a little lake in the Yupik territories from which we started this float, this 120-mile float two summers ago down to the Quisquam Delta. So logistically, very important. But I guess my point is on Science on the Fly, it's really, we're using citizen science. We're using guides, outfitters, people across the United States, Alaska, and eventually around the world to be able to collect this water, to collect these water samples. And we have the ability to do that because our consumer, our people that we deal with are in these areas. They're fishing these rivers, very remote, some of them, and they have access without having us to go to the cost to actually send people to get these water samples. So it's happening very quickly. We started the program mostly in Alaska, and now it's moving into all across the continental United States. And I believe now, after just a few months, we have 105 different sites of people, individuals who are collecting on a monthly basis water samples that are being sent back to the Woods Hole Research Center. So again, we're leveraging Fishpond to be able to get connections to all these different anglers and outfitters to be able to collect this water data. Another organization which Kent mentioned, Beyond the Pond, this is the National Fish Habitat Program kind of funding board that we started. I gave a speech at the National Wildlife and Natural Resource Conference on the Land Water Conservation Fund. And I met a man, Kelly Hepler, who is the resource manager for the state of Alaska, who helped me start this organization, Beyond the Pond, which is dealing with beyond the water system, all the fringe areas of habitat, public lands, all the things that deal with rivers. Before the water gets to the river, we need to protect those pieces of habitat. And so we're involved with the National Fish Habitat Partnerships, which is, I'll move this quickly, which is, I think, almost 20 across the United States, 5 in Alaska, all the way down to Florida. We're kind of the funding board to help try to get funding for all these different partnerships who are actually putting river conservation restoration projects into place. So it's a very important process. Again, leveraging Fishpond to be able to communicate these ideals and to get involved with all these different partnerships. Connection, collaborating, and conserving at the same time is what we love. So each of us have a sphere of influence, and how we leverage that is important. To me, what's near and dear to my heart are issues that deal with species. To me, species is the pinnacle of what I strive to protect, because if we have healthy species, we have healthy habitat and a healthy planet. When species start to get disrupted and the trophic cascade of species is gone awry, we start to see deleterious consequences all across the board. So I work very hard on species, and Fishpond does as well. Wolf restoration, several people on the call here, and Lynn Brucey's, I'm not sure if I pronounced your name right, sorry, Lynn. But we met in Telluride a few years ago when they had a booth talking about the wolf project. And so we have become very much involved in that. and on that note about wolves, which we just introduced here in Colorado, which is significant because I think it's going to be a kind of a cascade of sorts for other states to follow as far as species introduction. We may be, looking at grizzly bears here in Colorado. We may be looking at wolverines, but the success of the wolves in Colorado was important. And to me, it was important because it's keeping Colorado wild. And that wildness, and wolves are important, but most importantly is having wolves, which are a native species here, is fundamentally important to Colorado because it is the wildness that we need to get back to. And when you extirpate a species from the system, you are less than the whole. So I had a big conference here in Colorado. Mike Phillips, who works for the Tetra Endangered Species Fund, came in. I had the National Wildlife Federation here, Trout Unlimited, the Nature Conservancy, Western Rivers Conservancy, many, many different organizations who needed to hear this story about the wolves so they could broadcast and share that knowledge with other people, which eventually was successful here just a month or so ago in Colorado. So, I leveraged my brand, our sphere of influence with people, how we get involved with habitat to create conferences like this so we can inspire other people and to work together to get these things done. Sorry if I'm talking so fast here, but I know we got a very short period of time. The Otter Creek Fly Fishing Summit was another one of these that we held. And this was not so much just for NGOs, but for other brands, even my competing brands, people like Orbis, people like Sims Fishing, to say, hey, we are in this together. Let's don't make this a competition, but let's get together to see collectively as an industry how we can shift the course of conservation. Because the power of the outdoor business leaders is significant. We are maybe the third largest economic sector in the United States, the outdoor industry, and how we leverage that, how we, communicate the ideals of what we want to see shift in the sphere of habitat protection is not done by one brand alone, but by many brands, because they can communicate that to all of their customers in a different way than we do. So the Otter Creek Fly Fishing Summit was created. It was mostly brands who were dealing with fly fishing in some form or another, but in the same light that we did that. So again, Fishpond is a company that really cares. We are willing to collaborate. We are willing to share, and we want to become a brand again that is defined not by what we make, but by how we are perceived, by how we help others. So I'll kind of leave it at that. Maybe we can move into some questions, etc. I know that was fairly quick, trying to get a lot in, but the key is that we all these doors seem to open up, and when a small door opens, we all need to kind of don't let it get closed, because every little door opens into something else. Just like how Kent invited me into this meeting. We all, we somehow, these connections, this little family tribe that we have, what we do together perpetuates itself into something very huge. So happy to share at any time. And any of you on the call can call me at any time at Fishpond. You can send me emails. I can help you on any issues and things that we're working on, etc. So I'm an open book on that.
Awesome. Very, very nice there, Johnny. Super. Your last statement dovetailed to my question. So I might take first question, and that is, do you have any advice for sort of a typical Main Street business as to how they can get into, get their feet wet with giving a damn, so to speak? What are some of the first steps that small business can take to inspire in the way that your company does?
Yeah, I think fundamentally, the leadership of that business, whether it be the owner or the employees, whatever they may be, the heartbeat that they project and the heartbeat that they feel inside is pretty easy to recognize. In other words, what is it that moves them? What is it that they care about? Because if you passionately feel something and you feel like you want to participate, it will show to all the people that you touch within that business. And I think, so it doesn't matter if you're a retail shop, somehow project, you're selling clothing or you're selling whatever, but project who you are as a person and kind of the core value of who you are as your brand or whatever it is, and the things that you want to ship and see. You know, we happen to pick conservation, but it may be social injustice. There's many aspects of what people can change if they just start to talk about it and they start to let other people feel that, because people want to be led in a way. And that's the power of a business, to become leaders. And I do believe that business are the leaders in our country. Our politicians, especially in the last 4 years, have shown that they're not the leaders that we need them to be. But business people who do shift policy are the ones that are responsible for a lot of our great changes in our country.
Super. I think we might have a couple other questions. You'll have to unmute yourself to ask the question, but Seth Fortney, you had a question.
Yeah, Johnny, my name is Seth Ferdy, and I'm on the local Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for Durango. And one of the questions I would pose to you is, do you see natural land conservation, preservation, protection in conflict with natural land recreation, which is kind of an ongoing debate we experience here in my community? And I'm just kind of curious what your experience indicates in that arena.
Yeah. I mean, you know, recreation, I mean, the key is that, you know, the more we start to educate people about, you know, what in the recreation sphere, about why they're able to enjoy that and why conservation is so important, is critical. And you're on the Parks Wildlife Board there. As I mentioned to Kent yesterday, Dan Prenslow, who's our executive director of the Colorado Parks and Wildlife, which is the agency that protects and manages our state wildlife and parks. I'm working directly with him. We spent a day fishing together, and we were talking about really to how Colorado Parks and Wildlife can engage more specifically with non-consumptive users, which is right now the hunting and fishing crowd, and how we can get bird watchers, how we can get people who are just, you know, strolling their dog to be more of a participant and more of an active funding participant for Colorado Parks and Wildlife. So I'm going to help them on a whole new rebranding strategy, just as a volunteer, to help them spark ideas and to become more, you know, basically, you know, a part of this group of people who are, you know, two different types of users, so to speak, the consumptive user and the non-consumptive user. And there is conflict for sure, but the participants actually who are using our natural resources in recreation, frankly, in my opinion, don't pony up like they should. Our outdoor industry, frankly, has very little money, and the brands that are in this industry don't really participate financially too much in the process of helping saving the resource that their business depends upon. So I'm not sure if that directly answered your question, but you know, there is conflict, and we need to get the consumer and the person who is a recreationist using natural resources to be very much a participant and more of a participant in the outcome of habitat protection.
Thank you for the response. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anyone else question? You'll have to unmute yourself and jump in.
On the previous question, my name is Bob Kunert, and I'm just a local citizen. On the previous question, though, Johnny, you, as I understood, responded that, yes, this is something that we need to address. Do you have any ideas how we might make that happen? How we might get more people consciously involved in conservation, the users, the recreationists, the mountain bikers?
Yeah, I think mountain bikers, other types of, again, non-consumptive, like in Colorado Parks and Wildlife, for example, what I'm trying to initiate and work with is to create kind of a habitat stamp. So people, even if you just want, how do people know how to participate? Right now, to participate, to be a part of Colorado Parks and Wildlife, you have to buy a hunting or fishing license. That's how you fund the agency. 100% of their funding comes from those two entities. So if you're a mountain biker, how do you participate? How do you actually say, hey, the resource that I'm actually riding my bike in is being managed a lot by Colorado Parks and Wildlife? How can I participate? So, and it may be on a volunteer basis, but you know, being able to purchase a 10 $20, $25 habitat stamp to be a participant in those natural resources is a really great thing. And you can't force this on people. No one wants to spend a buck. But I think when people realize and we communicate together with all these different businesses about the importance of our wild world and our natural worlds, especially here in Colorado, it's fundamental to who we are as a state and the success of our state and why people are moving here. People are moving here because we have good companies are moving here because good people want to live here. So, we need to engage all those people in all the different recreational sectors to be a participant, a funding participant in the health and the longevity of our natural state of our beautiful state of Colorado.
Super,
Yeah.
super.
Kent,
We're gonna let's hold our questions. We're gonna have another shot at questions for Johnny in just a little bit, but few things first up. Let's see. I know we got a couple announcements, and then we're going to go into some small breakout rooms for a little discussion after his and follow up of his topic. So let's see. First, Christy Kurd of La Plata Open Space. You'll have to unmute yourself, Christy. There you go.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, I'm with La Plata Open Space Conservancy, and as Johnny was saying, the population of Colorado is only increasing. Durango is on track to double or triple in population in the next 10 to 20 years. We are the local land trust, and we kind of serve a pretty crucial role in protecting lands that otherwise may not be. So primarily private lands. And we're holding our annual fundraiser in lieu of our usual snowdown event. So that's a typical online auction or a silent auction. It's just online this year, and that's on our website, lposc.org. And to wrap that up on Friday, we'll have an online virtual talk with the author Angelique Lamore. She's, of course, the daughter of Louis Lamore. She'll be sharing stories about her and her father's time in Southwest Colorado. We're also selling some raffle tickets, and those are also available on our website. So this is kind of our year-end ramp-up fundraising, and hopefully some of you will come out and support us. Thanks.
Excellent. Thanks, Christy. So La Plata Open Space, head on over to the website. Susan Etter with San Juan Citizens Alliance. Go ahead.
Thanks, Kent. And there should be a slide after this one. Oh, maybe not. We're also having our annual meeting. It'll be next week, Wednesday, 6 to 7 via Zoom. And I'll send you guys a link to the registration in our chat. We'll just be having program updates and just wanting to check in with everyone. And I also wanted to say thank you to everybody that donated yesterday during Colorado Gives. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Susan, San Juan Citizens Alliance. And so we're going to serve through the magic of electronics here. You will vaporize into small rooms, and Sandia is going to tell us a little bit about how that's going to work.
Great, thanks, Kent. So we're going to go into some very short breakout rooms for just 5 minutes. You'll be with 3 or 4 people, and your prompt is to introduce yourself and share one takeaway you have from the presentation or a remaining question that you have. So everyone will have just a little over a minute to share, and then we'll bring everybody back after 5 minutes to wrap up with final questions or comments to Johnny. So I hope you stay on for our very quick breakouts just to say hi to some other folks in the community. And I'm just going to play a song very quickly as we set up those breakouts.
the ideals of fisheries, cold water fisheries. But, you know, if you're protecting a resource like ducks or protecting a resource like trout or salmon or any other kind of species that's in the water, but when you're protecting that species, you're also protecting the habitat that is on the fringe. And this is where this Beyond the Pond group comes in, because these groups like Trout Unlimited, who work just tirelessly to protect the natural world, they're protecting a species. And everybody thinks it's all about just the fish, but it's really not. It's about habitat protection. And Ducks Unlimited does the same thing. They put money into habitat protection, conservation easements, working with policy people on a very high level with the funding that they get that helps everybody. But again, it's not just about ducks or about trout. It's about the whole sphere of influence that they have on habitat protection.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions for Johnny?
The conversation I was having in my breakout group had to do with whether the message, I'll call it the B Corp type message, could be co-opted by the, I'll call it the major firms that are fantastic at marketing, but don't necessarily believe in what they're marketing, but they're good at it. And everybody becomes somewhat cynical when you see, I'm using this as an example, Exxon conveying itself as an environmental firm. And yet the advertising is phenomenal. And so it's hard not to become a little jaded. And I don't know what to do about that. I just experience it personally.
That's a great segue into me.
I think in response to that, you know, through a B Corp, and this is where this certification becomes important, because you can't just create lip service and, you know, call yourself a green company. And people can just do that, but you can see through it a little bit like you have. When you become a B Corp, it's a certified process. It's a very rigorous process. And there's, again, 3,500 worldwide, 70 different countries. So, you know, it's not an easy process to become a B Corp, but it's not insurmountable. You just have to give a damn. And you have to show that you're communicating to your customers and your community using, you know, if you're a restaurant, by not using straws, by communicating what's going on with plastic and the way your containers for food, that you're using recycled materials. There's so many different ways that people can show that. But, you know, I would give anybody, you know, a direction to please try to, you know, become a B Corp or communicate those ideals. And I'm happy to tell it, you know, give advice to anybody on that process. And
we do have there are a couple of resources here in Durango, folks that are very familiar with the process as well, that I can help steer folks to if you're interested in that.
So this is Fidel Moreno, and recently moved here to Durango, and I'm an ethnographic documentary filmmaker. I work with a lot of young people teaching in prep schools in New England colleges, and I'm just the last question segues perfectly for me. So what's the story that's being developed, created, designed for the next generation? Because I just recently found out about B Corps, and so it's interesting for me how you're getting the message to people about these B Corps and why they're essentially a good thing to invest in. So is there a medium? Is there a campaign that you all are looking at? And so the other part of the question is, how do we speak? So that how do we design something so we're not speaking to the choir and the next generation? Because I notice we all have healthy gray hair.
Yeah.
In our heads.
I don't know about healthy gray hair. Losing a lot of gray hair that's going away. But again, the messaging of who you are as a company, whether you're a B Corp or not, it just starts with you as a filmmaker, or starts with the children and the young people that you're dealing with. You are a platform. Your business is a platform, but you are a voice. You are a platform. And it seems like, you know, in life, you know, we speak loudly sometimes, and you wonder who's listening. But I think we'd all be surprised if we just really sat back, and when people don't even have a response, people really are listening. And I think we just need to make this a movement. The B Corp is a movement. It is 3,500 companies who went through this process. You don't have to be a B Corp to have the same ideals, but you know, the platform to communicate the ideals of conservation, sustainability, social injustice, et cetera, you know, starts with speaking up. And I think for young people, and the gray hair people, you know, I mean, it never stops, you know, I mean, we'll go to our deathbeds, you know, being the evangelist for the right thing. And I think that's all we can do. And it becomes infectious, really. And the louder and the more you do it, the more you're successful your enterprise will be. And I find that, you know, Fishpond, it is a platform for us to do this. It's not why we're doing it to help grow our business, but the consumers are smart. Young people are smart. People make choices. And so that movement of recognition comes from a consumer who is the ones that give a damn, and they're buying from the companies that they think care. Get down to that.
Anyone else? Questions?
Yeah, Matt.
Yeah, I see someone there. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Johnny. We never actually met through the Wolf Project, but thanks for everything you did to support it. My question that you kind of inspired me to ask, since you got to spend a day with Director Prenslow, did you get to bend his ear about grizzly bears at all?
No, I think, you know, I mean, the wolf win was big. And right now, Colorado Parks and Wildlife needs to digest that, right? I think there is, and Gary Skiba, who may be on this call as well, he works as a biologist. I think there's, in a way, I look at it from a species perspective, that there is conflict with, you know, how science mixes with public opinion. And I think, you know, the Colorado Parks and Wildlife, which is a lot of ingrained years of work as working with the North American wildlife model of managing wildlife through science, is now at a crossroads with how it's being managed by public opinion. So I think there's a process there that we need to work through. It's a communication strategy. You know, I want to see wolves and I want to see bears. I want to see wolverines. I want to see all species that have a place there. And I think we can get there, but we have to take small steps at a time. And not all of them. I mean, it's a divided world, and in this kind of sphere of habitat protection. And some people are, you know, against climate change. They think it's politicized, that, you know, there isn't such thing as climate change. And yet there's other people who have all the science in the world, like the Woodwell Climate Research Center, which is the guiding light for a lot of these companies now. So Dan Prenslow, again, it's about relationships. You know, I'm leveraging a relationship. I'm in the fishing world. You know, we help sustain their income by helping get people out to go enjoy the outdoors and buy fishing licenses. But I also recognize that together we can actually craft a new story and a new future for Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and be able to be more inclusive with more of these stories like wolves and bears and wolverines, et cetera. But you know, we need to get by the other half of the state to be on board of it, because that wolf project narrowly passed by, I think, 60,000 votes. So it's still very polarized, but I think now we have an opportunity to become educators about what it means to have this wildness and to work with all stakeholders so people can understand the issue and we're not so divided.
I think I heard one more person with a question, and that'll be it. We'll wrap up. So did someone have a question they were trying to fit in there? Otherwise, let's all just show a big thank you to Johnny. Yeah,
Thank you,
thanks
Johnny.
so much. And also a big thanks to Sandia Tillotson of Sagebrush Limited for handling the networking part of our GBR and helping transition GBR from a room where we want to be into the virtual space. So thanks to Sandia as well. So thank you, Sandia. Thanks, San Juan Citizens Alliance. One final note, if anyone has other suggestions for the spring version of Green Business Roundtable, please send me a note. I'd appreciate hearing from you. Otherwise, one more big thanks for Johnny, and that was awesome. Thank you so much.